Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Fresher cut and fresher shave means we are theming. We've got the black headphones. What bullshit do we have on my doorstep today? Should you tell your partner that you are trans? Yes! It could never be that easy. It could never be that easy. In this household, I try my best to give motherfuckers chances. And the Lord knows I gotta apologize for homies, because homies can't apologize for themselves. However, there is an active problem I'm going to have throughout the entirety of this video. I'm not going to insult their appearance. I ain't going to do none of that shit. But what I am going to do is not hold back it, regardless. I actually had to think about if I could say it that early into the video. But no, I ain't going to go there. Unless you want me to. But I ain't going to go there. I ain't going to go there. Please speak your truth.
Hey guys, this is Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
So today I want to talk about something very important, and I really felt like it was a given.
Well, thank you, Jamie, for being one of the few people that I could even begin. I don't even know if he is. Doesn't even necessarily mean that he would be or not, considering the material positioning of the far left. But thank you, Jameson, for being one of the few people in the world that would realize that, yes, assault is bad. And deception is also bad. And deception and assault while trans is basically a death sentence. At least in Florida.
You should disclose certain things to your sexual partner if
it's you should disclose things to your partner. Period. That's where the sentence stops. That's where it stops. Jamanthy. I gotta say these Jakes for Jimquisition. But no, James. You disclose anything to your sexual partner. Period. It's not you disclose it if it's a hookup, or you disclose it if it's a random 4-man orgy. You disclose it always. Not disclosing it is deception, and thus is assault by default. Because if the decision would have been changed by that information, it means they should have known. If someone would have told me I went down to Popeyes and there was a rat that pooped in the dirty rice, I would probably not buy the dirty rice side. I'd probably get the mac and cheese. And if someone would have told me the mac and cheese sauce was spoiled, so the pasta might be fine, but I'm eating infestion and ergot, if I put that in my mouth, I'm probably just going to get the chicken. And if the fryer vat oil has not been changed on Tuesday, when it's supposed to be mandated throughout the entire Muskogee region to be done between the weekend and the weekdays, and should be done daily to prevent the fires from going up, and I see too much smoke coming out of that kitchen, I'm going to just go to a different chicken shop. Period. Just period. Period. Just period. So I'm confused. What's the if? If what?
It's a hookup, if it's a relationship, and specifically I wanted to focus on a hookup basis, and I do believe while cruising as well.
For those who are sexually unaware, cruising effectively just means casual hookup without any attempt to contact that person again. So, you know, your standard scene in Riverdale where two queers go out into the forest and whatnot. It could have gone a lot of places. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm gonna be so for real. I could have thought this was about to go somewhere entirely different, but they kept it normal. Phew!
something that you should expose and tell people regardless if you're trans, if you're non-binary.
Motherfucker, you speaking too slowly. Control that. Go ahead and hit you with that. With that what?
If you had bottom surgery, if you hadn't had bottom surgery, you should be upfront with it, up to the point that I've seen people say that they mention it as they're removing their clothes.
What the hell? No, sir. No, sir, no. Alright, shit! Call bedroom deception. Alright, no. No, 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 no. No, James, no. You didn't say it. Other people say it, so I'm saying it on behalf of those other people that need to hear it. Nigga, are you for real? Okay, so, when should you tell people about things or disclose things to people before shit happens? Probably before you get into the car.
And can you imagine being in a situation where, how to put this softly, the person is transphobic and decides to attack you, to put it very mildly, and maybe you won't even make it outside the door after that?
I see we're presuming things. I don't believe that's how they would work, James. Right? Let's take transphobia out of the equation, alright? We have these. We have these, James. I can clearly tell from the way in which you have chosen to present yourself that you're a trans something. Don't know if it's male, don't know if it's female, don't know if it's a xenogenic alien from outer space with body mods. You're a trans something. And to my trans somethings in the audience, they can tell. Okay. Now, if you're really, really good, and I mean you really, really good, you probably pass on a level where, as long as they don't look at you straight on too much, they probably wouldn't tell that you're a male or female. And honestly, is that not the goal? Transgender means you are transitioning into a new gender. You know? If light is both a wavelength that can be communicated on the spectrum of the visual as well as the sonographic, meaning as a wave and a particle transitioning through as a form of radiation of light and sound. If light were a person, when light transitions into each of these spectrums, we could clearly see if it's male or female. You know? Basic stuff. The same thing applies with any kind of creature that exists on a non-binary spectrum, especially if it's capable of changing gender. But the clear thing about that is that when it changes gender, it is clearly not a trans something. So, just go ahead and take the gay animal equation out of the argument too. But that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the, you're alone in a room with a person that you've met for the first time after drinks, you know, blase, drinking and drinking, you're clinking and clinking and clinking and clinking, all of a sudden you're zipping and zipping and zzz! I have something to tell you, Daryl. That's not how it happens, okay? That's a skit, or that is a beat in a American Pie comedy film, alright? We no longer live in that time period, alright? It's also a joke that comes from, Lord have mercy, it's also a joke that comes from sitcoms, especially the man on Netflix. That doesn't happen. No, there is no man that is getting a random woman or male into their vehicle, bringing them to their place, and is going to fly into a tirade to beat the shit out of them. I'm not talking statistically. I'm talking what you can randomly expect. Okay, pick a bar. I could pick a biker bar that's a couple of ways down the road from my home. My wife and I could go there together. Partner and I could go there together. We could witness, take examples, pictures, ask the bartenders. Do that multiple times at different spots and different places throughout the city. I can almost promise you, for every one of these things, there's just a bunch of drunken hookups that people regret. Alright? I do not believe that a random man or a random woman is picking up a trans something and going to their home, and then when the trans something tells them that they have something to tell them and that they're transgender, 1, they didn't know, 2, they didn't expect it, and 3, they're not going to pull a 90s black female and say, I know we could think of something we could do, because quite frankly, if you pick them up in your car and the vibes are vibing, who cares? You grown-ass adults. Get freaky-deaky as you want to on your own pleasure. You ain't got shit to do with that. Because that is fear-mongering. And I ain't fucking with that. I'm down with the homies being OPP, but I ain't down with the whole PP trying to fuck around with me. Hell you thinking?
So you're literally putting yourself under the risk just because you don't want to disclose it. Why are you sleeping with someone who can be a threat to you?
Yes, Lord! Say that shit a little bit louder for the females in the back!
And I do understand that sometimes we don't want to expose to people that we're trans, but in this case, we're going into a personal boundary. A sexual encounter is a certain boundary. You are in a certain space.
And that's all motherfuckers want. A little bit of honesty, a little bit of personality, a little bit of sex. You gotta have the ability to talk about this shit. The fact of the matter is, James is correct. There are transgender individuals that want to try to keep everything under lock and key until they let out the chastity belt and then the dog collar. Like, I'm not trying to judge anybody. I ain't trying to kink shame you. I'm not trying to victim blame you, but I will be victim asking questions. Because this shit doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are not random predators going about beating the hell out of men and women and getting away with it because reasons. And there certainly is not transgenders doing the same thing, except reasons, unless it's amongst the lesbian community. The sapphics have a lot to answer for, alright? But the softest lipstick sapphics, the softest lipstick lesbians, they're more likely to be at violence against themselves as well as the transgenders that appear and present female but are still pre or even post-op surgery than random motherfuckers. Because what have we always heard? Men not having it disclosed to them because they're being denied sex, and then they beat the shit out of them. But like, transgenders, my trans somethings in the audience, why are you putting yourself in these situations? These are risks you're taking that you ain't gotta take. By all means, go to the gay bar. Fucking go to the fucking gay oyster and find somebody who gonna slow down with you like and then be happy. It ain't gotta be like this. It really don't gotta be like this. But we seem to find ourselves in this cope spiral. It's whirlpool and it drags us all down. Truthfully.
If this person finds out, and specifically in the current climate, in general, this is something that you need to tell. So I've seen people say that, like, oh, after follow or like after meta or whatever, or I use a packer and I don't tell girls, guys, whatever, that I'm trans. And I've even seen people use analogies like you don't disclose all your STI history.
All these things outside of California are crimes, by the way. I just thought y'all should know that. Take a little snack. I ain't got much to say on this part. He cooking. Oh, excuse me. She's cooking.
It's a bit different when the stigma is obviously, like, you should disclose your, like, if you're HIV positive, if you're non-transmissible, undetectable, it's still something that someone else who you're sleeping with should know, and it is a breach of trust. And well, first of all, I'm a very big sort of person on disclosing it on the app when I do go to Hookup. I don't hook up very often these days, but when I do, I really make sure. And then before I send photos, I even make sure even then that, hey, I'm this.
You are a brave trans something, and I wish people would follow your example.
I do not meet people without them knowing that I'm trans. And I'm really like rattling my brain, but I really don't think I've had a situation where the guy did not know that I was trans and it ended up being okay, but I had it on my profile and I said, why did you not read on my profile? And we had a massive discussion about it.
Now, see, one of the reasons I chose this video to look at and to talk over was not necessarily because I disagree with James. A couple of places, maybe here and there. Watch the whole thing in its full context. But really, it goes to show that this is an example of someone who's not amongst the progressive stack. No, I don't need more watermelon. I don't need more watermelon right now. Amongst the progressive stack, that they're doing everything correctly. Like the same thing I expect normal fucking functional human adults to do. You meet someone, you talk to someone, you're dating on profiles online, you're hanging out with them and shit, you're telling them your shit, you're telling them the things you're into, you're exposing yourself, you're communicating, here's what I had in the past, here's what I have right now, here's how I work with that, blase, remission, blase, post-op, blase, schlong, dilation, blase. Not a single thing that they've said is wrong at all. It's not. I can agree with the bare bone structure of everything. But the problem is that when you clearly look at the entirety of the left does not believe in this. They don't believe I need to expose information about myself. They don't believe in communication. They don't believe in touching bases. They believe in withholding information and, no, you're gonna have to guess. And this opens them up for all of the bad outcomes that could happen if you just communicated this shit. We're here, we're queer, but we ain't gonna talk about it, apparently. And that's the shit that probably grinds a lot of people's gears. It's really benevolently bad. It has to be fucking communicated about. It must be discussed. But that's not what we're going to discuss. What we're going to discuss is how we're going to push this ideology onto the younger generation, and we're not going to tell them about protecting themselves and staying safe. We're going to tell them that you should be as open and upfront and vile to people openly and brazenly. And if they don't accept you, and if they don't kneel in front of you and suck the cock bigot, then clearly they're just hateful bigots that they must be canceled and they must be life ruinated out of society because they're not good people. And this is the crux. This is the key, right? Take any other denominated raced community. Take Mexicans, take Hispanics as a whole, take Puerto Ricans and immigrants as a whole, take native-born basketball Americans and Afrikaners as a whole, take black separatists, take far left ideologues and talking head and figureheads, take your left wing and right wing content creators, influencers, and streamers, and I can almost promise you're going to see a dialectic amongst them where the same narrative and the same arguments exist inside the whole. Between men and women, not even counting for femmes and political diatribes and the intellectual diaspora. It's the same arguments over and over again, which is effectively men are pigs and are accountable for all the actions that the females should be held accountable for too, but women can do what they want and men have to pay for it. So effectively, men take responsibility for everything and they have responsibility but not authority. Women don't have to take responsibility for anything, but they have authority even over random strangers they don't know. TikTok generation is absolutely cucked on this. I hate seeing this diatribe, and both before and after any work I did for the government, I keep seeing it happen. I keep seeing the social issue happen. I keep seeing the social problems happen. Atlanta, in itself, is a freaky deaky world that is just the Los Angeles of the Southeast. But it happens in ways that don't make sense, especially for the amount of casual sex people are apparently having. Even as there are women supposedly swearing off men. And the shit is really toxic when it comes to the trans argumentation of it, because of course there are a lot of transgenders in those supposed down low spaces. Like, call them effeminate men, call them whatever you want, call them twinks, but there's this never-ending problem, especially when it comes to those with this complexion, that somehow they didn't know. They didn't know Especially when they were feeling up in the bathroom from the front and in the back doing this whole maneuver. They couldn't have known. It gets under my skin. I see it happen often, especially when I'm covering topics for the fried chicanery, and I'm just happy to hear and see somebody that's finally said the fucking truth. Because honestly, the problem is that a lot of these arguments we don't hear and we don't see because they don't want to talk about them. They don't say them openly. They will say them on places like Twitter, and then they'll have these discussions inside of these subreddit communities, and then when we finally see it come out of the mouth of some ideologue, I'm gonna have some now, out of the mouth of some ideologue somewhere, when it comes out the mouth of Siggy D, and once I've seen it, and I showed it to Jay, and she and I are talking about it with whomever we're talking about it with, even if it's just between the two of us on a live stream, suddenly it's, nah, there's no way you knew that. The discussion should have been had in the bedroom, not between two content creators on the internet. But since it got there, we'll ask questions, and there goes the victim blaming part. The how you can't say that about them. No, you should. These should be open conversations that everybody should be having at any time. I don't care what your background is. It was just painful that in James's case, his account is so low and has so few followers and subscribers. And yet, amongst the people like Jesse Gender, or Essence of Thought, non-existent argument. They care more about the political diatribe and how they're going to convince kids to become transgender by watching Wings of Power than, the shit that's right in front of them. All I'm saying, the messages are mixed, and the attention span ain't there.
Reasons why I never tried cruising. I have enough activity on Grindr, excuse me. And even if you want to cruise, I still feel like it's better to do it in a safe space, in a sort of designated area. You can still have anonymous sex on Grindr.
Ooh, I know this one. It doesn't feel as good. Why I gotta put a wrapper on my Jimmy? I like the feeling. What, you don't trust me? Same arguments, I swear to God. Same arguments. And he's right. She's right. She's right. You should be safe. And you should be able to do it in a safe way. And you should be able to assign shit. It's like going to an all-out, it's like going to a nights out brothel. Except the only part that has lights on is the front. You pay, you give them the thing that you need to go into the place, and then you have like a little glow stick, and then you meet up in the dark in a section, and you do what you're doing. It makes perfect fucking sense. And yet there are people that have the exact same approach to these things as they do to safe sex with condoms. Truly, choice feminism has destroyed a lot of people. Honestly. Because it comes from there. And people will still judge them. They will probably find this video, either be through me or through somebody else. Somebody will stumble onto the topic, and they'll still approach it with the same brain-rot opinion, which is, you don't have to take accountability for anything. You can lie to everyone. You don't gotta do shit. Shit's fucked!
But the problem is, if the person finds out and the person does not take it well, you just might not finish the hookup alive. And hearing this really sort of grinded my gears, and I do understand that obviously we have dysphoria. We are treated as something else very often. We are treated less of a guy, or like in trans woman cases, less of a girl, or non-binary, less as human.
Or less of a nigga.
Less as they identify as. But why would you put yourself and give a person an impression of someone who you're not, even if it's just for sexual gratification?
Do you want what I think the answer is, James? There are two of them. One is worse than the other. They want to be a statistic. Because confirmation bias. And self-fulfilling prophecy. That's number one. Number two. They're stupid. The first one requires more talking than the second. But let's work backwards. Stop it! Stop it! Some people do not think that much. They don't think about their actions before they do them. That's obvious. but some of them are just inept, and they've never considered the emotions of another person when they're making decisions. Some people have a difficulty doing this. I had a difficulty doing this. It's a hard and arduous road to think about your decisions and choices before you make them, or to consider what happens before you do it, especially when you do not consider or see the problem from someone else's perspective. Now, the first one, I am under the belief that a lot of those that would call themselves activists and agitators for social change are effectively acting as accelerationists when it comes to sexual violence. And they are hoping that the numbers spike in such a way to confirm bias for their own intentions. Statistics that can be used to silence motherfuckers like me. Because I'll research on motherfucker. I will call Aiden like that! And we gonna be on that ass like data heuristics. Fucking hook on phonics all the way through to the numbers, and we find the ups and the downs. It'll make her and I both scream, what the fuck? But the problem I have, I've noticed this over the last 5 years of this being a thing, especially before, even back when I was still in high school, at the ages of 14 to like 17. You cannot believe, once you really look at it, and you really look at it, how many activists and how many scholars specifically look at this information to confirm that there must be violence against the transgender and there must be violence against women because we need a little bit more power. And that's the insidious one. That's a part of answer number one. Because some of them, they put themselves in the dangerous situation so they can justify to themselves that no, I am desirable, I am queen, but actually there's just a bunch of bigots out here that are cruising down low. And you know, he got a little sugar in his system. He a little sweet. And other such insults said to men on a general basis, especially when they're not gay, because a lot of the men don't have a case of the not gays. A lot of the women have a case of the I don't want the dick. I don't need it. I don't need it. I especially don't need it. But all of a sudden, when they can't find relationships that are meaningful and more deep than random hookups in the middle of the night, they run to the statistics and they run to personal anecdotes of negative experiences to justify as though it's going to stop other people from understanding what should be obvious, which is that this is something that is brought out of other people, not something that is necessarily true about people as a perspective. And then when that perspective gets fully answered, whether it be true or false, we come to the realization that a lot of it comes down, at the end of the day, to I wanted to hurt someone, and I wanted to justify my hurt done by someone. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people, especially when it comes to sex. Transgenders are no different. The use of the statistics to then justify a self-fulfilling prophecy of what could be considered by all same degrees in the same argumentation in the same ideology as inceldom. 1-to-1 match, but because it's trans, it doesn't line up. It doesn't matter, and that's probably the most concerning part of the topic, because no matter what you do, they won't tell the truth. That's really the long and short of it, honestly. That's why number one is more insidious than number two. It would be great if those activists would look in the mirror, go to a dating coach, and start hearing the kind of things that have been told to the females. I don't know what the coaches would do with the transgender. Honestly, I don't know how they would structure a course around particularly helping them with their issues, because there's 5 more issues plus that come in when you add trans to man or woman that you don't usually have to consider. Especially the sexual aspect, especially for those who are post-op. Like pre-op, do what you do. Love is love. If they want to schmeggle your princess wand, by all means, schmeggle their princess wand. Dive into the man cave and have fun. But the sexual aspect in of itself is a aspect that causes a lot of those relationships to just go poorly. That's why more often than not, it's considered to be better for some of these people, rather than be transgender, just be gay. No? If there is a part of the dysphoria in them that causes them to approach the topic in such a way where they literally cannot find love because they have made this decision and they have irreparably destroyed themselves. Permanent patient aside, you have a deeper ground problem that then leads to a bitter resentment against all dating culture, let alone the subculture that exists within transgenderism or those who choose to go cruise. And there are some inside of that where their problems are not legitimate. They did them as an intention to justify feeling the way they feel, and they can never be broken out of it. It is not even learned helplessness. It is malicious helplessness. Or malicious abuse. And these people are abusers. I think that's where we'll end that on that. Some of these people who do that, what James is describing, that put themselves in negative situations for no other reason than because they want to feel bad and they want to be able to say, but you haven't felt what I felt. They want to be hurt. And they use that hurt to then terrify the rest of you with fear-mongering. It's a crazy world we live in. It's a crazy world we live in. See y'all in the next one. Bye-bye now.